Hello, hello. We are live. Hey, Andre.
Hey, Tara.
Yeah, we're going to start in just a moment. We'll just let a few people join and find us, and we'll see you in just a second.
Awesome.
Okay, ready? Hi. Hey, Andre.
Hi, Tara.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm surprised that we're actually on time today. And then we were sitting here thinking, wow, we're actually a little bit early today. And then you said, are you ready? And suddenly I was like, no, actually, I'm not ready. I've got things to do. So just hurry up and wait and then rush.
Yes. Hi, everyone. So welcome to Mondays with Tara and Andre.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. So let us know in the comments if you can see us and you can hear us. It looks like there's a couple people on, so please say hello, thumbs up. If you can see us, tell us where you're joining us from. Yeah, if it's your first time, we love first timers. Well, and we love returners.
Well, if it's your first time, maybe we should introduce ourselves then.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So who are you?
So my name's Tara Lynn Franco. Wow. I am a relationship and awesomeness coach, totally made up title that I love. And you are?
I'm Andre Turcotte. Since you're doing the last names, my name is Andre Turcotte. I'm a sex-positive psychotherapist.
Yeah. So we come here live every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Sometimes we come at a different time too.
Sometimes we come several times a day, depending on which program we're following.
Yes, exactly. So we talk about all kinds of topics related to open relationships, polyamory, swinging, and all the things that come along with that, like communication, jealousy, how to deal with those things.
But also not only exclusive to how we relate to others, but also how we relate to ourselves, our sexual identities, sexual expressions, how we interact, all that stuff. Anything. Anything and everything. Any questions you have, bring them forward.
That's true. So we have about like 100, I think, videos in this group of all kinds of trainings we've done. So there's practically every topic there. So if there's something you're looking for, let us know and we can share you, tag you in it or something like that. Because we talk about some fun stuff too.
Yeah. And we do accept questions from friends, right? If your friend has a question, asking for a friend.
Yes, asking for a friend. So, so today we're continuing our 3-part Securely Polyamorous series. So last week we did communication, and we actually replayed one from January that we did on effective communication, which was awesome. So if that was confusing, it was a bit of a live broadcast.
I'm laughing because I think the caffeine is starting to kick in, right?
Yes, I think I had 1.5. Anyways, 3-part.
I should have gotten the microphone. Okay, that's good. So would you have any coffees did you have?
I had 1.5.
Just one?
Yes.
That rocket fuel. Good.
Okay. Right. So 3-part series, Securely Polyamorous Series. So last week was on communication. This week we're talking about clarity. And the third one is connection. And we'll do that next week.
Okay.
But today we're going to talk about the 5 steps to gain clarity and security in opening your relationship.
Awesome.
So would love to know from you. Say hello in the chat. Do you feel clear in your relationship? Maybe it seems like a funny question, but I think sometimes people open up and start in, decide, it's going to be really fun. Let's open our relationship. And there's a bit of uncertainty. And the uncertainty is kind of fun and exciting, but it's also scary. Right?
Yeah, it sure is. It makes me think about a couple that we were speaking to this weekend that we met. And, I think they they arrived at the same position, but it seemed as though they were taking different routes in getting there. And one seemed as though they were really thinking about it and had a lot of clarity in what they were wanting and not wanting. And the other admitted that they took a very organic approach to it and seemed like, well, we'll see what happens. And it was interesting to compare their 2 experiences, how the one had gotten into a little bit of muddied water and actually a lot of muddy water and felt as though they had done a horrific job of it the first time around. And then the other one, how they felt as though they were able to sidestep it by becoming informed, by gaining that clarity. So there's reasons for it, right?
Yeah. So that's the point of today is I think when you're feeling clearer about things, you certainly have an easier time. And it's one of the important steps. So I think when you don't, and I certainly fell into this trap, is that you might fall into the what ifs, right? Because I think
the what ifs?
The what ifs, like what if they meet someone better than me? What if if I fall in love with somebody? What if someone tries to steal my partner? What if we mess up this altogether? So we're in a secure, loving, open relationship, and not open relationship, secure and loving, secure, relationship. Maybe we have a home, we have kids, maybe we're married, and then we decide we're going to do this thing, and then it like completely blows up and ruins everything. Yeah. I think that's the one big what if that people have a hard time with. So
I thought you might suggest, what happens if we decide to open this up, and what if I end up in a place where I'm not wanting to be rather than the place I want to be?
Oh, well, that's true too. That's another one of the what ifs. That's why I think it's important to start thinking about and do these 5 steps that we talk about, which are actually 5 questions. So we're talking about clarity today, and we do have a worksheet. So clarity is the secret word. Okay. Not so secret, seems obvious. So if you want that worksheet to work through these 5 questions yourself, you can just drop clarity in the comments. And if you have any questions, you can do that as well.
Yeah, you call it a worksheet, and I guess to some extent it is work, but I like that you put on pictures of us clowning around and goofing around, because maybe we present that it's always so much serious work, and what the hell, who wants to do work when opening up or going to poly? That's not why I got into it, so I could do a lot of work. I think it's good that we acknowledge that it might feel like work, but it's leading towards better, more satisfying relationships. There's a reason why we're going to invest in these worksheets, that they're actually good for us, but they're not also like filing our taxes. They might be a lot of fun and might inform you quite well.
Yeah, it's certainly not. We don't put together worksheets that are filing your taxes. They're a lot simpler than that, and just gets you sort of like your mind thinking, and can be used as a discussion point with your partner. And I think a little communication, like a little bit of work on the front end, and as you go along too, I think serves you quite well.
Yeah, so. Well, I think it's often said, right? And we know, we've observed it firsthand. You might go into this thinking, oh yeah, let's open it up. Let's have this kind of relationship, and it'll be like so much about the sex. And it can be, and it is, but so much of it is about communication, right? So we put down a good foundation, and that's going to open us up securely to open up our relationship and be able to go at it and enjoy the pleasure side of it. So do the work now, get that foundation set so you can create from there.
Yeah, so this is some of the foundational work. So the first step to ask yourself is, what's my intention? What makes me want to open up my relationship or be polyamorous?
Yeah, good question. Why now? What's going on, right? Is there some kind of dis-ease that's in the relationship, and you imagine, well, if I open it up, that would solve everything? It might, but I'm not so sure about that. If the foundation isn't very good, if we don't have patterns of communication already established, it might be, in fact, the worst thing. It'll magnify the great, but it could also magnify the less.
Hands up if you started from a place of I wanted to just, well, no, I'm not. I'm just signaling. Yeah, hands up. I'm just saying in the comments if you started from a place where you thought it might fix things. And it was funny because we just recorded a podcast with Una Duncan. She's got an amazing podcast called Goals, Grit, and Woo Woo Shit. And I think it's going to be aired in May or something like that. But she was asking us, is this a way of fixing a relationship? Yeah. And we've kind of both went no. There's certainly things it could create some sparks and excitement in your relationship.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
However, I think it's important that that's not the reason you're coming from a place of dissatisfaction with your relationship and going to this to make it more satisfactory.
Yeah. So if there are issues of jealousy or insecurity, if there are communication patterns that are not pleasant now or not viable now, it will enhance that. It will really magnify that and bring it to the forefront, and then you'll see what's going to happen. But if you can address those issues, then it really creates for an amazing opportunity.
Right, and that can be all part of the same time. Like you may decide that you want to open up for some reason. Am I too army today?
Yeah, your arm's awesome. Go for it.
You may decide you want to open up for a number of reasons, and maybe those things aren't perfect. It's why in our program we have those steps that we go through and teach people those things, right? Like things don't have to be perfect for you in order to start, but it's great to start from a place of security. But
that being said, even if you've already opened it up and things have started to go south, you can definitely course correct. We can always influence how we are in the situation or how we're going to experience the situation. or a future situation. So
Exactly.
all hope is not lost.
Oh, someone's saying my current relationships both started as poly. That's awesome. I think that's a great way to start. Sometimes it does that way, and I think that sometimes it's a little easier transition. But if one person is wanting to move it into that space and you're already in a relationship, I think that can cause some trickier situations, I guess you could say.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. So let's go back to the first question is what makes me want to open my relationship? So we talked about intention. You talked about, am I trying to fix something? The other thing is like, what experiences am I excited about? Like what is it, what part of it is exciting for me, or what do I want to fulfill? And, you know, I think people ask us, right? Like, why did you open up? And I think, you know, I think it came about as an idea originally to explore some sexual experiences. But I think what it's become, and what I would tell people now that I love about being polyamorous, is that I have the ability to have like multiple loving relationships with like a variety of different people. And it really enriches my life. Yeah. Like, for example, we went to a party this weekend and we met some new people, and it was just it was such a loving experience to be in that environment. And I just love what that brings to my life. So
yeah, that cuddle puddle at the end was beautiful, right?
Oh yeah, the giant group hug. Yeah. So think about so number one is thinking about what's your intention and what makes you want to open your relationship.
You know, it's interesting. You say what makes you want to open that relationship, and I wonder to what extent I was wanting to go on that premise, or was it really, again, that monogamy at that time did not feel like the right fit for me, right? I was avoiding that relationship escalator. So it seemed like going towards poly would be much more of a natural fit for me, as opposed to trying to avoid other situations that didn't feel quite as appropriate for me at the time.
Okay. Yeah. I love that. All right. So number two, and this is an important one. So this is, what level of emotional and sexual exclusivity am I interested in?
That's interesting. So there's choices.
Yes, there's choices. There's not just one choice.
No.
And like I like to say is the only polyamory that's right for you is the one, the only, I got it wrong. Oh my God.
Well, it's okay. It's good to make mistakes. Let's hear
the only right way to do polyamory is the right way for you.
Wow, that's good. Okay.
Yeah.
So listen to your intuition, listen to your feelings. If something about it doesn't feel right, then let's figure out what's not right about it. Let's become self-aware in that, and then let's share it with our partner or partners and find out what would be better for us, what would feel more right, more appropriate, right?
Yeah. So
but it's interesting. Sorry. So the idea of sexual or emotional incorporation or exclusivity, how do we want to do that? So it's on the spectrum, right? We go from one way to let's see the diagram. So we go from one end of the spectrum to the other. So with very high sexual exclusivity and very high emotional exclusivity, we would fall under the umbrella or towards the quadrant of monogamy. We'd be kind of monogamish, right? So we're exclusive on both the physical and the sexual. And then it starts to move into the other quadrants, and there'd be a blend of whether we want higher or lower sexual exclusivity and higher or lower emotional exclusivity, all the way down to and including, but not limited to, relationship anarchy, right? Where we are feeling that we are, I guess, kind of open or not necessarily exclusive to our interactions of emotions or physical demonstration of sexuality.
Yeah, and the reason this diagram, we have the little circles from monogamy to swinging to polyamory, is that this is a common pathway that people follow. They start with monogamy, they might become monogamish, so have some experiences flirting, having one-off sort of experiences, vacations, moving to swinging, where they might go to parties, their lifestyle, doing things together. Sometimes they go into open relationship, where then they start to think about, well, what happens if we open it up to other partners, and then moving over to the side that's more, like you said, lower emotional exclusivity and lower sexual exclusivity, so polyamory and relationship anarchy. And I think it's when you come across that middle line and become go towards the lower emotional exclusivity, I think that's where people tend to have that, it's a bigger jump. So yeah, so often I think even this weekend when we were talking to some people, they're like, yeah, they're cool with the lifestyle and swinging thing, but don't see themselves as being polyamorous, and only see themselves as doing things together, which is cool. Like, I think if that's what you want, that's awesome. So part of the second step of understanding what level of emotional and sexual exclusivity you want is figuring out like what's sort of out there, like, you know, what are these options for me? What do I know of opening up? So doing a bit of research, talking to your partner. Part of what we do in our group is we do in our program is a relationship visualization. It's like, what do I imagine this could look like for me? Like, what feels good? What do I envision when I think of opening up? Because I think sometimes we might have a conversation with our partner, and then we have an idea of what we have in our head, but we might not be talking to them about that thing.
Sure. Yeah, and even it makes me think not only in the way we're going to relate to other people, but even our own sexual identity, our own desire for sexual expression. Right? We're talking about
good one.
How certain people they felt that when they were in their close relationship in a previous marriage, they were not so comfortable in announcing some of their sexual desires, whether it's the way that they identify or they interact with other people. And it was not so easy to express, but now they're coming ways to seeing how they can do that.
Yeah, in fact, somebody asked me, they told me, like, outed themselves as bisexual at this gathering. And they said, like, what do you think about that? And I was like, oh, that's amazing. I love it. And they were like, wow, when, like you said, when they were married, it was something that they couldn't talk about. They raised it once with their partner, and it was just like a no-go. And how, this has allowed them to have that expression and feel like true in themselves.
Yeah. So for such a long time in their marriage, they had to either hide that or deny that aspect of themselves. They had to just kind of feel, well, they said they felt somewhat ashamed by it almost, right? Because the reaction was so strong from the other person. And that's a big area of ourselves, right? A big part of ourselves that we have to kind of almost deny, or we might interpret as unacceptable by others. And then we might internalize that as unacceptable when in fact, afterwards they found out that it's very survivable. They could have that, and they could explore it. And if they wanted to be that way, they could. And if they didn't, that's fine too. But it's the idea of acceptance and normalization. And that can only be achieved through communication. Being able to be come to terms with ourselves and share it with our partners. Hopefully a secure, safe partner.
Oh, so that's a good segue, Andre, as usual. So number 3 is, what do I need in order to feel secure in this arrangement? So what are my needs? What am I worried about? How do we talked a bit about it before, like how do we build our secure base? So say you're opening up from an existing relationship. What can I do? What can my partner do to, like, how can I meet my needs, these needs of security in myself, and how can we support each other in meeting those security?
And very often through those conversations, we might develop agreements, mutual agreements that we say, well, these things are of concern to me. This would make me feel good, or this would make me feel less good. And we will develop an agreement about it, right?
Yes, as we call our values-based agreement. So based on what you value in your relationship rather than on rules, punitive rules. Yes.
Rules are, we put in the rules the idea of a rule, the concept of a rule, thinking that, well, it sounds hard fast and it sounds as though it's really going to be there as my protection. But it is employing something else to create the sense of protection when in fact, that's not going to give you that feeling of protection. It is coming to terms with your own attachment styles, your own inner esteem, and then you'd be able to have greater ability to willingly enter into agreements. The rules, they often are kind of based on some kind of punitive measure. And it's this idea that, well, if you cross this line, then all hell will break loose.
Yeah.
Whereas the other position feels as though it's coming from much more of a secure place, and it's helping us to feel secure in a less punitive way.
Yeah, like a rule might say what you can't do, like you can't do this or you must do this. Whereas an agreement based on your values might be, you might value quality time in your relationship. So part of your agreement might be that we make sure that we have set aside time for quality time in our schedule. And like we don't fill our entire, which means we don't fill our entire schedule with dates with other people. You know what I mean? So what sort of actions and things do you do and say to uphold those values in your relationship? So.
Yeah, what's also great about the values is that when we come to it in a mutual way, it helps us to feel as though we've been seen, we've been heard, right? So I feel as though I have a say in this. It makes me feel much more connected.
Yeah. Someone's asking if they can watch this later. You can. It's in the replay will be in the group in Let's Talk Polyamory on our business page and on our YouTube page. But if you want, you can message me if you want the worksheet, or just drop clarity now and we'll make sure I send it to you. So we'll make sure I send it to you.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Thanks for the credit. So we talked about the agreements that we're going to try and put in place here. That brings us to number 4, right?
Number 4.
The idea and the willingness about communicating honestly. So what do we really mean about that?
Yeah, being open and honest and not hiding away from possible difficult situations. So I think, the kind of the joke or the talk is that many say that polyamory is more about communication than about the sex. In fact, I'm going to make a T-shirt. If anyone wants a T-shirt, let me know. I'm in the process of designing it. Yes.
Right, cool.
I have a fun idea that I want to make and wear around in summer. But yeah, so part of communication, if you're used to hiding away or not being open with your partner, then like if your attachment style, for example, is more of an avoidant style, you may hide away. You may not want to share. And I think this can bring up a lot of resentments if things aren't going the way you want them to be, if you choose just to hide from it. So being open and vulnerable is what I would say.
Yeah.
What were you thinking when you asked me that question?
As far as being able to communicate openly and honestly, to really look at ourselves and find out, do we feel excited about talking about this, and excited in a kind of anxious way? Do we feel as though we're wanting to avoid, as you say, and what is driving that? So, how are we going to come to terms with that? And that is some of the work that we do. We look at our own levels of secure attachment and how we're able to go from where we are now to increase our levels of secure attachment. But again, it all comes down to that willingness to be honest with ourselves and then take that leap of communicating it with others.
And honest with others as well. Like one of the things we talk about all the time is, talking to people, new partners and people we date about STIs, and if you've been tested and how important our sexual health is. And so you might be communicating with a lot of different people. And that's a big thing because everybody communicates differently, right? So learning how to communicate properly it's been one of the game changers for me personally.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it's fantastic that you mentioned the STIs, right? Because in the beginning, I was a little, I guess, apprehensive about bringing the subject up. What happens if I start talking about STIs early on in the relationship on the first date? Are they going to think that I'm, obsessed with sex, or I'm, do I have the disease, or whatever it is? I had a whole bunch of ideas that I was bringing forward, this transference that I was creating about bringing it up. And I've, was able to let that go to the point where now I bring it up in a very matter-of-fact kind of way that shows that I'm easy with it. And I think that makes them feel easy with it. But the point being, the more I participate in it, the easier it got. So initially, participating in these forms of communication, our the way we attune to each other in our communication styles was not familiar. It was foreign to me and somewhat uncomfortable. I was mystified by it to a certain extent and wanted to turn from it. It seemed like it was going to be too fantastic, too overwhelming to have to do. The more I participated in it, the easier it got, and the quality of my relationships increased because I was able to announce my position and I could say what I preferred and I could listen and hear what they were wanting, and it made for better matches. So
yeah, I feel like this is the most communicative relationship I've ever been in. You know what I mean? And I love that about it. And I've learned so much about being a better communicator. So not just to you, and all the stuff we've been studying and we practice and we teach our clients has, it's something I actually apply with my parents, and when I talk to my parents about things and, understanding where people are coming to and trying to be really open to listening, because that's the other part. We're not just the ones talking, we're also actively listening. That's part of the attunement communication process, is being the listener and listening with an open heart and understanding and that sort of thing. And really,
Yeah, for sure. Learning these communication skills that we teach, they will definitely be transferable outside of your poly relationships, at work, with your parents, you say, everywhere. So it's a good thing to invest in.
Yeah. So number 4 was, kind of openly communicate. Number five, the last one is how can we execute opening up in a way that feels secure and comfortable. So, part of, you've thought about what it is you wanted. You've imagined what it would be like. You've figured out that how to communicate, that those things are important. Now it's like, okay, so now we have this idea of what it is that I want. And then now we have to talk together and come up with your sort of, we call it our relationship blueprint, your action plan of next steps. So where do you start? And then how do you sort of phase that out? Because you could say, okay, let's just open our relationship. It's like, okay, and you know what I mean? What does that mean? How does that actually play out? Because people sometimes, I don't know about you, but I've talked to lots of people who had this idea, and then one person might say, oh my God, it's going way too fast. I thought we were gonna do this, but we never actually sat down and put a plan on okay, how is this gonna look? Are we gonna start by going to a club? Are we going to start to do things together? Are we going to start going on the apps? How much are we sharing? There's a whole bunch of things. What things are sort of yes, no's, and maybes, at least to start.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we can always revisit it, right? But if we don't make these announcements, maybe I'm not that much into the club scene, but we go to it and you're really having a good time about it. When am I going to have the opportunity to tell you of my preference or how I feel about it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about all the yeses, all the absolute no's, and the possible maybes, and let's revisit them from time to time and see, is it still something we're wanting, or do we want more of it or less of it?
Yeah, because we certainly didn't start where we are now. This is totally not where we started. We started more of a, experiencing things together, in threesomes and going to clubs and that sort of thing.
And some tough mistakes along the way too, boy.
Yeah, definitely some tough mistakes that we've learned from, for sure. And
we learned from. That's the point, right? Because we talked about it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
And we did research and we wrote it down, and it was some work, but it was worth the investment because here we are now enjoying the fruits of it.
Yeah, and we've come to a certain place that works for us.
Yeah.
But we were just chatting on the way back from the party about how, each person that we met had a different sort of relationship that they're doing. I would say ours is we're sort of in a position where we date other people, we have lots of experiences, we feel very comfortable doing when the other person's, I guess we varying levels of comfort maybe when the other person does things. For example, we talked about you going to a party with somebody else rather than me. You know what I mean? And I'm
or vice versa.
And vice versa. Yeah. And I'm comfortable with that, but that wouldn't work for everybody.
Well, you're comfortable because we're in a good place.
We're in a good place.
Yeah.
I feel in a good place. I feel secure. I feel like our relationship is strong. And that's what we want to do. But that's not to say that that's the way you have to do things.
No, and I can't imagine it would have been acceptable or desirable in the very beginning.
No.
We didn't put down the foundation. We didn't have that dialogue.
Yeah.
We didn't know what was going on with it.
Yeah, that's why making a plan to start with, and then that feels comfortable, and then agreeing on how you might continually check in and maybe adapt things as you go. Because maybe one person is ready to go to point B and one person is on A point 2. You know what I mean? That sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the 5 things. So to recap.
Yeah, let's recap.
So number 1 was to figure out what's your intention. Number 2 is what level of emotional or sexual exclusivity am I interested in? So what kind of style do I want? Number 3, what do I need to feel more secure? Number 4, am I willing to communicate openly with my partner? And then number 3, what's our plan to open securely? No problem. Simple,
right?
Yes. So if you want this week's worksheet, it has all 5 questions and some prompts, and you can use that to start writing down the things. Even if you've opened up already, it's a great way to sort of revisit these questions for yourself and think about what comes up and use that as a tool to communicate with your partner so you can comment with clarity. And then the other offer we have today is, if you are wanting to gain more clarity in your relationship and so you can build that secure foundation and want to talk to someone about it, we are here. You can book a relationship visualization clarity call with me. And so the link is here. Go taranandre.com/relationship. That's long. I'll put the link in the comments.
Yeah,
or you can pause the video and write it down, or just DM me.
The link.
Yeah, we'll send you the link for sure. So that's it for today. Thanks, Andre. That was fun.
Yeah, sure was.
Yeah, so thanks everyone for joining us. Comment #live or #replay, and join us again next Monday. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.